Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where purpose meets performance. Hosted by business strategist and human behavior specialist Carly Pepin, this show dives into the real stories behind high-growth businesses. Let's bring life to your vision.
All right, so welcome, guys. So today we have a really cool guest today. I had a really great time talking to Matthew on our pre-call, and I'm really excited to share some of the stuff that we kind of got to dive into. So it's going to be cool. So Matthew Neill Davis is an attorney, heavy metal guitarist, which I saw his guitar just a moment ago, an entrepreneur that led his solely owned firm, Davis Business Law, through over 1,000% growth over 8 years, making it one of the very rare law firms to ever make the Inc. 5000 list. The firm currently has 9 offices from San Antonio to Kansas City, with over 25 years of experience helping business leaders with their legal and entrepreneurial matters. Davis now teaches them how to deal with their vulnerabilities so they can capitalize their opportunities through his firm's proprietary strong protected business system. Davis lives in Enid, Oklahoma, where his family has lived for 6 generations and holds degrees from the University of Oklahoma, Cornell University, and Cornell College. So welcome, Matthew.
That's kind of right. Yeah, we've been here a while, and I kind of like it. It's I'm in Oklahoma today, which was nice. I haven't been here in forever, so.
Yeah, I know you travel a lot. I know that when we did the pre-call, you've been bouncing around, and so welcome home.
Thank you. It's nice, and it's nice to be home. Thanksgiving's coming up, so I'm excited to be home with the fam and go out to the farms and blow some things up and stuff like that. So.
Okay, wait, time out. You're gonna blow some things up.
Oh, we'll shoot some things and
Okay, shooting stuff. Okay. I come from a family from the film industry, so when you say blow some stuff up, I've actually been I've hung out with my dad. He actually did really blow some stuff up. So I was like, tell me more for just a quick second.
Those want to get out, you can go get a little tannerite and blow some things up if you ever want to do that. So come out, we'll show you how to do that. It's kind of fun. So.
I'll probably be better at it than I care to admit. All right, so let's dive into the business dynamic, the business aspect. So when we think about you as a business owner in your firm, not long ago you were practicing law from your house. What changed from practicing law in-house to creating this dynamic where you've scaled it to such a degree that you have multiple locations?
Well, I just had a midlife crisis, and I was 47. And I'd started with the firm and then went just with office, then with just a friend of mine, and then ultimately just went really small. And it was a great life. I had 5 kids at home. My wife homeschooled some of them. And I had a kind of a midlife crisis because I was like, number one, I don't really want to do this the rest of my life. And we also had one client get really big for that size of a business, and they were 40% of our business. And I kind of freaked out, and I said, I don't know how to replace this if it goes away. And that was a concern because I was the sole breadwinner. So I just decided to go start a law firm, and I kind of burned I burned the boats, as they used to say about Caesar, when he invaded England, or Britain anyway. And I said, okay, let's go do it. Let's figure out how to do it. And we started growing, and we're just too dumb to know we can't do it. So we just keep doing it. So there you go.
The best, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just like, what? Okay, well, let's do it. So.
Yeah, I'd actually love to touch a little bit more based on this, because I think something that you said in here is really vital for so many people to understand. Because I remember connecting with a company that was, I think they were in 40 million range, and they had 80% of their income relying on one customer. And that to me was the biggest red flag to work on. So I love what you did, because I totally agree. Like, it's wisdom. If you are relying on that one customer and yours was only 40%, still fully agree. Like, tell us more about the dangers of that dynamic, because a company of that scale they're not even noticing. I think more people don't realize it than we understand.
I'm pretty blunt about stuff like this, and I'm pretty blunt with my clients about things. I think that's irresponsible leadership, and I'm not going to mince any words about it, because, unless you have Well, for a variety of reasons, even if you have it contractually bound, that client can go away. Poof, you're gone. Now, 80% of the people that you're responsible for keeping the food on their table now don't have the food on the table. And, I don't think that's a smart, responsible way to run a business. Yeah, it may look great on paper. Oh, we're running $40 million, which, by the way, may or may not be good because, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. You've heard that, right?
I know that
And
one.
yeah. And it's a really dangerous, dumb spot to be. And I'm in a lot of law firm owners groups, and many of my friends are like, we want to get these whale clients. I want these big clients. And I'm like, I don't want whale clients. They're we want a variety of businesses. We want a variety of businesses that are reaching out to us, that we've developed good relationships with, that keep feeding our pipeline of work, and that we can serve. So I hope I've answered your question. That's a real soapbox for me because I think it's irresponsible from a business leader standpoint. And
Yeah.
I can tell you
Oh,
that company that for us, that was 40% of our business,
mhm.
when it was just me practicing law. So we have 25 or so attorneys right now, and we'll grow to probably 40 next year. But they have we went from having 3 branches to having 45 branches with that company, and now they're less than 8% of our business because we've grown past them.
Yeah.
And they're still a really important core part of our business, and a client that we value immensely. And I get called to regional meetings and go speak to all the owners, or not the owners, but all the regional, the managers. But yeah, wow, that 80%, I'm still kind of cringing, going, yeesh.
I was the same way. And I was also very blunt about that as well, because I agree with you. So thank you for being blunt, and thank you for sharing that. Because I think what's interesting is it's like you've built your business now in such a way, which is what I'd love the listeners to reflect on, is now it's 8%. So if you did lose that client, which is a valuable client, it's still not going to impact all the individuals who you are helping to put food on the table, to make sure that the company thrives. And when the company thrives, all the people who work under it thrives. And you're right, that's true leadership, where it's not just about you, it's about everyone that you're also impacting.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is I'm the one that would take everything on the chin with that, because our profit margin would go.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah,
The downside of being an owner.
let's get serious about that. So
No, it's very true. And you have a book as well. Tell me a little bit about your book.
yeah, okay. So I wrote a book called The Art of Preventing Stupid, which it's a business book, and it's about a risk management tool that we use, because I think, and look, I've been guilty of it. We're all guilty of going, I can't believe I was that stupid with, with what just happened in my
Yeah.
business. Look, I have a 83-year-old uncle who's brilliant, worth immense amounts of money, still active. And he's like, Matt, I just can't believe how stupid I was last week. This is the guy I go to for business advice, right? But I think one of our main goals is just preventing the stupid mistakes. And it's an art. And so I wrote that book about using some technique about it's really about constructive brainstorming over, number one, what are the catastrophes that can hit your business? What are the disasters? And usually they're pretty easy to figure out, but people don't take the time to do it. And we've all lived through them. And the question is, are you prepared to deal with it? Or in some instances, have you prevented it?
Mm-hmm.
We had our COO rather inconsiderately die last year, which we thought was pretty rude of him. We're kind of pissed at him still. He's a great, great guy. I would tease his wife still about how inconsiderate he was. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm still pissed at him too. And so, you got to look at your catastrophes. We talk about ignorance, meaning what don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, You know, And because business is a constant, if you're growing, you're constantly adding to your skill set. You're constantly learning something. And, this right here is some of my notes that's sitting across from my desk that I'm working on some projects we're working on. And so it's like, what do I need to educate myself on so that we are really competent to operate at a higher level?
Mhm.
And there you go. So that's steps 1 and 2 that I like to think about and brainstorm about, because if you can brainstorm about it and ask yourself good questions, you can go deal with it. Third thing is, I call it ineptitude. You might call it ill discipline. And that's, constant. What do you know you need to be doing that you're not doing? And that's a constant battle, just keeping the rhythm down of everything you need to be doing, and constantly improving it. Jamie, who's our firm administrator and one of my right hands, she was first employee of the firm. We spent 3.5 hours in our little office right over there this morning from 7 till 10:30, just nerding out over numbers.
Mhm.
And we're just improving our productivity systems and metrics, and it's not easy. There's an element of this that's with us that's like herding cats, right? And so I hope I'm making some sense, but it's the book ultimately is about a tool and how to brainstorm to get down to a, a list, an organized list of what you need to do to protect your business and move it forward.
Mhm.
There you go.
I love this. Okay, so we're gonna dive in deeper because I think some of the stuff you share is really fun. All right, so I want to see like I would love listeners to see how this is practically applicable in companies, right? I know everyone does this different, but I'd love to hear how you guys implement some of these things in your company, right? So when you talk about the catastrophes that are coming, I love that. Like sometimes I'm called a Debbie Downer. I'm like, you're right, I am a Debbie Downer because I want to know what's headed my way. And we look at all the bad things that could happen. And it's almost like a brainstorming session that I love to have to see like what's realistic, what's coming, what can I actually plan for, and potentially what's unrealistic. And sometimes it really wakes me up to, wow, I'm headed in the wrong direction. So, how do you guys actually implement that in practical form in the company to kind of dive into like where are the catastrophes that are coming our way?
Let me pat you on the back and give you some encouragement, Debbie Downer, because you're not
Hey,
okay.
who thumbs up for me and a Debbie Downer, by the way?
Well, no, I mean, Andy Grove, had a little company called Intel. You may have heard of them. I think they're up the coast from you in Oregon, if I recall.
Yeah.
And you know, I, what was his saying? Only the paranoid survive, right? Something like that. Anyway, um, I look at business, and somebody taught me this years ago. I don't know where it came from. I wish I could attribute it, but business works in 7 systems. You got the owner, and the management team as a firm grows or a company grows, and so and we'll start with that system. We'll call it a system. The a good, when you go, oh, what could go wrong? What catastrophes could hit us? That's not a good question. That's a lame question. That's not an incisive question. Let's turn it up. What could go wrong with our management team?
Hmm.
Okay, now we're starting to think. Now we're starting to get some ideas. Oh, well, Trisha could haul off and die. Well, we've already dealt with that once. That happens, right?
Hmm.
And so, um, what can we do about that? Well, we can buy her a gym membership, but she's pretty healthy anyway. Or, we could do some things to, improve and maintain everybody's health. Or guess what? We could go get some life insurance on her,
Hmm.
right? And so, Jamie and Trisha, who are CFO and firm admin, well insured, right? For the firm. Um, and what if something happens to me? I'm 57 years old. I could stand to lose a few pounds, but I've been running all over the country, eating meals in restaurants. That's what this is. This is, this is succession planning stuff for the law firm looking at, we lost our number two guy. Well, we lost our number. So, this stuff happens. So you've got to prepare for it. So, you have or prevent it. And so, we've gone out, insured the leadership team, which at least will bridge us over if something happens. Aside from Jamie and I were working on things this morning. I'm like, we're reinventing some of our reporting. Like, Jamie, we've got to write this down. It can't just be dependent on, you knowing how it is. We're not here to be superheroes. We're here to build an enterprise. And then, yeah, specifically with me, all of these beautiful, big things right here, large Post-it notes, are designed around what if something happens to me? Because this is my rock. For this quarter, if you're familiar with scaling up. So this is succession planning crap that I'm dealing with right now. Here's my desk over here. I'm looking at this every day, so it's hitting me in the face. Okay, that's leadership. But, another system is, what are your employees doing? Okay, our catastrophe is, what if we have somebody commit malpractice and do something stupid, miss a deadline, right? And so we have some fail-safe things built in for that, like the 2 eyes rule. Letters don't go out without 2 eyes, and docketing things, right? Another system is going to be marketing. What if our marketing all just fails? Yeah. And, we watch that like a hawk, because, we run like a growth company, and, we're constantly paying attention to it, and constantly paying attention to what our friends at the Google are doing. You may be aware of the Google, and, they're pretty good to us in a lot of ways. We have a standing Google appointment, but, at the same time, our prices for this month, to the extent we use ads, are up 1/3. Like, what the hell's going on with this, guys? We've got a call set with them. I think it's not later this week. I guess it's next week. It's like, guys, why did you just raise our rates? No, don't give me the holiday season crap. We're a law firm. No, we're not competing against people to sell fluffy slippers. So, the book teaches to look at these 7 systems, which are your management, your employees. Sorry if I can't rattle them all off right now. Okay. Your facilities or your plant. What would happen if this building burned down, which is our main office, or one of our branch offices burned down. You got to do your marketing, you got to do your sales, and you got to have your people, your employees. So I've kind of mumbled through that, but when you can ask more precise questions, you're going to get more precise answers. And in doing that, you're going to get action items. And, we had a business coach for years, and he's like, then he retired, and he's like, you guys just do not make a lot of unforced errors. Everybody has problems, but if you can minimize the unforced errors, the stupid, then that's what helps you move quick and grow quick.
Yeah, I actually really love this. I completely agree with you. It's that dynamic of, there's a healthy level of paranoia that we can have at business owners. It's interesting because I do have a client that, when they came to me after a catastrophe, right? And it's interesting, had they asked the quality questions beforehand about the management team and what could happen, like, they would have had the systems and structures in place that would have protected them from having that level of catastrophe. So it took the catastrophe to, we reached out, we put in the systems, we put in the structures, all of it sorting out, but now they have a healthy level of paranoia. Like, that also gave them the opportunity where it's like, what if this happens? What if this happens? And I say, is that genuinely a possibility? And they'll look and they'll be like, yeah, it actually is. And it's like, okay, well, let's get something in place for it, right? And so, yeah, it's like, what are we actually, are we allowing that healthy level of basically paranoia to come through to make sure we're planning for our future and giving ourselves a stable ground? Because all the things that you talked about, it's funny, I think about stuff like that all the time too. And it's like, what's important to focus on now?
Hey everyone, it's Carly. If you're really resonating with what we're talking about and want to get clear on what truly drives you, what your core values are, head on over to my website. In the tools and tips section, there is a free values assessment. And this is a quick exercise that's going to help you to uncover what actually matters most with you so you can lead and live with more clarity, fulfillment, and momentum.
Well, yes, you have to play that defense. The line I always use is if you'll deal with these vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
you're the one that gets to capitalize on the opportunities. Okay, that's my little rhyme. It's my little mantra for that. And I think strategic planning, whether you're using scaling up or EOS, it's all about, let's look rosy off to the future. What are we going to do 5 years from now? Let's do some vision cat. Yeah, come on. You're better off doing a little bit more short-term vision casting. That's a whole lot more important. We kind of minimize what we do long-term vision. We kind of just look for the base hits or the doubles, if that makes point, and really worry about the negative, the what can go wrong, and like I said too, what we need to learn to get better. And we focus on that a lot, and people think there's this saying, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, I'm not so down with that, because I think when you look at life or you look at a business goal, you look where you want to be and you go, okay, what's keeping me from getting there?
Yeah.
You can figure that out, what you don't know.
Yeah.
So that's one of those maxims of life that I have a little bit of resistance to. It's like one of my clients years ago. We were out here. They're in a farm town out here, and they were really busy in the middle of the oil patch here. We had a oil boom, a lot of horizontal drilling around here, and also had all the earthquakes that everybody was carrying on about. That was us, and the which is all under control. Much ado about nothing. But they couldn't keep it. They were working 80, 90 hours a week. They were plus. And, and they were just very frustrated. And I finally sat down. I said, guys, this didn't make me popular. You guys don't know jack shit about, sorry about my language, about recruiting.
You're fine.
You need to know how to recruit. And they finally, these are guys with patches on their shirts and ball caps, and they're kind of looking at me going, well, the little punk lawyer's right, isn't he? And I'm like, yeah, I'm right. And then guess what? So, they took on that challenge, and they figured out how to go do that. And they came back and they went up to Michigan, found some recruiter in Michigan, and man, they had tons of electricians. And so, I guess my point is understanding not only the catastrophes, but how learning new things is a challenge that you can really focus in on if you ask the right questions. And that's our job, is to constantly be learning and growing.
Yeah, I love that. Also, by the way, we'll have a lot of common language and stuff, especially with the scaling up dynamic, because I am a scaling up. I went through the scaling up certification for coaching. I really love their system. It's really, it's inspiring, all the gym columns and all the fun stuff. So I think what's interesting too is like, I remember listening to, I can't remember what it was something from Donald Trump, but he was talking about when he was planning to build something, and now like one of his checklists, like he tries to sit there and go through everything that could go wrong. And in one of his checklists, he actually added having Indian burial grounds, because there was a project and I can't remember which one, but it actually got halted as a result. And it's funny because sometimes I think we think that can't happen to us, but ironically, like not long ago, I remember I'm from LA area and I lived in Pine Canyon for a while. I'm just outside now. But like I remember someone was trying to build like between Topanga and Malibu something commercial and they got halted because they hit an Indian burial ground. And it's like we all think like stuff like that just won't happen to us and it's so rare until it does. And it's like that cost of it happening is so huge. So if part of the system is like, how do we educate ourselves? And I think this kind of legs into the next section of education where if I'm uneducated about things like that, about construction and building, there are things that I'm not going to think about. Part of it is we get educated through challenge, but I think education to find the gaps helps us also almost foresee, have a foreshadowing on some of these challenges that's going to occur. So I'd love to dive into education and how you've incorporated it in the culture. Like I could see how you've done it with yourself. How do you incorporate it with your culture so that other people are getting educated as well? I do think it's one of the highest priorities that we can have.
It's, it's a decided part of our culture. And of course, another commonly used deal is, speed of the leader, speed of the team, right? And I'm kind of a liberal arts style nerd. And I was a history major, and we have really do attract a lot of like liberal arts majors from little liberal arts colleges, and that's just kind of our speed. But um, we have a verb here called 800, okay? Which I'll tell you what that means. So I was a kid, and I was a ornery high school kid, and then I somehow managed to get into a reasonably good little college, and then I wanted to go to a really good graduate school, but that meant I had to take the graduate record exam, the GRE. And so I said, well, I better go figure out how to do this, right? I identified what I was ignorant at. I didn't know how to take that test. So I sat down and I studied for the dang thing. And it was, it's 3 sections, or at least was back then, of 800. And I made an 800. I perfect scored the English part and almost perfect scored the other 2 parts. And it wasn't because I'm, natively brilliant. I'm fairly smart, but I'm not upper 1%.
Mm-hmm.
But I tested upper 1% because I identified where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I put forth the effort to go learn what I needed to do to be world class at that.
Yeah.
And so our goal is always to be world class at whatever we do with our systems. So our case finance system, average law firm will collect 85%. We ran it, as Tricia likes to remind me, 98.2% last year. Okay, she has to get the 0.2 in. Okay.
I love her, by the way. She sounds like my style.
Yeah. And right now, we're working on recruiting, and everybody knows we're working on recruiting, and by recruiting we're working on going over our systems of what we're using. So we do cognitive testing, but we've sort of pigeonholed what that's meaningful for in our recruiting process. And we spent a lot of time last week looking over cognitive results of really everybody that's been in the firm for the last 4 years. And we're like, okay, well, this is what that tells us. And so that's an example of constant learning. We're constantly studying a person. We're studying again. I think we're pretty happy with what we're using for personality testing. We use a broad spectrum personality test, and what we really use it for is not to indicate who to hire, but who to indicate not to hire, because we just don't want extreme personality types. And because extreme personality types are difficult. And so, and I'm looking over here at my board because I've got my list of things we're working on. And we're looking at another tool called the Hartman Value Profile, which Boy, that's a hard one to explain, but we may start using that. So I guess what I'm saying is we are constantly deconstructing what we do and trying to get better. Jim Collins talks about it this way. He talks about having your SMAC recipe, which is your specific, methodical, and consistent things that you do. And so I have a spreadsheet that is probably, I keep it in landscape, but it's probably 8 pages, and it starts, I was reviewing it again this weekend, and it starts with attorney sourcing, okay? Attorney vetting, which is, and these are steps between that. That means how are we going to source attorneys? And that's not even counting staff, right? So here's how we're going to source them. Here's how we're going to vet them before we even talk to them. Here's initial. So, there's specific, methodical, and consistent. And we try and get as specific as possible to constantly be learning and go. And, I'm looking at this weekend, those first couple columns, and I'm like, oh, I thought that was brilliant a year ago, and it's complete, total garbage. Strike that, start over. And so I've got about a 2-page, after I sent Chelsea a 1-page email, she sent me back a 2-page email that's like, no, dummy, this is what you need to do. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm like, I'm probably going to go, yeah, you're probably right, because you're smarter than me. Because go hire smarter people, then you're good, right?
100%.
I hope I'm making sense. I get kind of enthusiastic about this.
No, I love it. I want to talk to you about what you're enthusiastic about. It's where your genius lies. So I think what's really cool too is what I'm also hearing is you're not just educating yourself in general on principles and business and gaps and like what you do. You're also educating yourself on your employees. Like you're actually understanding who they are, like how they behave, all these different things. I would love to share with listeners how that looks like as a practical application. I know a lot of people get overwhelmed when they think about implementing something like that on a larger scale, because you have 45 individuals, correct me if I got that wrong, but 45 individuals, which is a good quantity. And so how are you implementing that at such a large scale to have that level of understanding? What's that look like as a system?
Dang it. I think I need to be better at that.
That's awesome though too. Wow, you're doing good now. And
no, I think we're good at using personality tests for for vetting purposes in the middle of recruiting. I really think we could do better with there are some tools that you've heard of, like Disc or Colby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Wonderlic has a product that help you, or Enneagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of like Enneagram, but I thank you for the compliment, but I do not think we are good at that.
I think that you have some great grounding practices, but
Yeah.
obviously there's constantly room to grow. But based on what it sounds like, you're too focused on it, you're too inspired by it to not have something.
I think what you just did is I'm probably better at it than I want to think about it.
Exactly.
But I haven't systematized it out in our SMAC recipe. And, because a company doesn't get built in a day, it gets built. And, but, I do think it's important, Ray Dalio in Principles, which is a great book. I mean, how do you not love what that guy accomplished?
Yeah.
He talks about how his company used Disc and how everybody would have that tacked on their door so they kind of knew how to talk to each other. So we have not fully implemented that. Leadership team, we know Enneagram, we know each other's Enneagrams. We know Katrina and I always joke that we're helpers, so we're 2s in Enneagram. But we really, our biggest challenge has been as to grow the company has been recruiting, and finding the right people and responsibly finding people that we can serve and that we can take care of. And so, we have spent, yes, we've spent more time on that angle, but you've now inspired me to broaden and add. You've just given me more work, Carly, because now I have more
Sorry,
columns
not
within our
sorry.
snack recipe. So,
I can summarize a little bit. Just listening to what you said, I think I have a general idea of how you're actually incorporating it in a different way, so I can explain it. Because when we incorporate it, so we use DISC and then we have values. So we use DiMartini values, and we love both of those. But it's interesting because if we don't work with a company as a whole, we work with the leadership team. And if the leadership team greatly understands it, then they're able to understand their micro teams better, and they naturally start to like just kind of see it and incorporate it. And so we really start from the top down. If we can't do a whole company and they don't want to do it, it's fine. We just make sure we get it like grounded with the leadership team. And that sounds like what you're doing, and it does have an impact, which as I said, you're too inspired by it unless you have too much for it not to make an impact.
no, and
It's like you're doing something.
so you guys are using DISC and
Yeah, we do values by Dr. John DiMartini, and that's one of my favorite. I prefer both of these because both of them, we don't get trapped in a box. It gives us a little bit of flexibility in the sense of the human dynamic, where yes, maybe some of them I get a little trapped where it's like it says I'm this and this is just the way I am, but I'm like I'm not like in this situation. But sometimes, like I'm a crazy speaker, but well, it's just funny. I went to this birthday party and it was just that did not resonate. And so there, someone thought I was introverted, right? And ironically, I don't seem introverted, right? But that's because I'm introverted in certain situations and extroverted in others. So I like to find anything with a personality type that explains who you are and why you're introverted and why you're extroverted, so that I could really understand a person and how they function. So that if I want someone in like a company or something and we want them to be a little bit more extroverted, I understand what pulls that out of them. And I'm like, okay, cool. This person's usually introverted. Let's get this out of them. And then I know what that is. So that's why we choose those.
okay, that makes
Mhm.
sense. I'll look at that values when I don't know that.
I'll
Uh,
send it to you. I actually think
Yeah.
you're gonna love it. I'll send after this and I think you're gonna love it. It's really fun. It's one of my favorites.
We've spent a lot of time looking at these sort of tools. You may get a kick out of this. We did a study of all of our attorneys with Colby, which they I think they kind of play a little Wizard of Oz. They use this word conative. I think it's
Mhm.
aptitudes. I think they're just making up a word. They'll argue with me. I'm going to stick with this story anyway. What we figured out is our mechanics don't our lawyers don't need to be mechanics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think maybe that's just self-selection. But there you go. That's what they should not be turning wrenches. Let them make arguments all day long. So
Yeah. Oh, that's
anyway,
very cool.
so yeah,
Thank you for
those
sharing.
I am interested in all this stuff because it does benefit your business.
Mhm.
And you, thank you for the compliment, but that's a strength that we're going to 800 eventually.
Yeah.
So we haven't 800 in it yet. So
Yeah. Well, I think what's cool too is I don't know. I mean, I love this stuff too, so we're gonna dive a little bit more, but it's that dynamic where I do see you get like lit up about it, right? Like I see you get excited and you want to talk about it and you want to share about it. So I know that's something that's really valuable to you, that's innately important to you. And the more I know, the more that I talk about it, and the more I have you open up, the more excited you are to share. So it's kind of like it's fun. It's how I run my podcast when I talk about the businesses, but I pay attention in a conversation to like what lights someone up. And then the more that I go down that rabbit hole, the more that I know we're going to get like some really inspiring information, some cool stuff. So yeah, when I think about like what you're sharing, I think it's one of the most important things as well, because I really think that it not only gets you to really connect with people, but it gets us to tap into like the fullest level of their potential and their fulfillment, which in a company to me is an amazing culture to have fulfillment and potential both simultaneously with the people that you're taking care of, in essence. Your employees, they're the people that we take care of.
Yeah, I was in an interview last week in Austin with really lovely woman that we hired, and she's pretty seasoned, pretty smart attorney, and has been COO of a couple law firms, but has gone back to attorneying. And I said to her at one point, our first core value is believe and protect their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of looked at me and nodded. And I said, that's not first about our clients.
Yeah.
It's first about our employees. Because, and she kind of was like, oh crap, this guy's actually serious. And, because Richard Branson, I quote this all the time, he teaches, if you take care of your employees, your team, they'll take care of the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So my job, and I tell people this all the time, I'm in the attorney lifestyle business. I'm not in the law business. My job is to find great attorneys, help them have the room to master the craft, the autonomy to do the work, and provide them the support and the opportunities. And that's kind of our secret sauce. And I told a young attorney who I met at a conference that the other day, he's trying to grow a law firm. And he was like, oh crap, nobody's ever told me that. He goes, but you're completely right. Take care of your people. Take care of your people, protect their dreams, help them live their dreams. And then, yeah, that's what you do. Because at the end of the day, we're servants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this.
Hey everyone, it's Carly. So if this conversation is really hitting home and you want to get a real snapshot of what's working and what's not in your business, head on over to my website in the tools and tips section and you can have the business performance health check. In just about 15 minutes, you're going to see where the friction is and where your next growth opportunity lies within your company.
And so, like, as we're diving into this, I'd love to talk a little bit more about leadership with you, right? Because it's very clear that leadership is a huge part of your company. We've gotten to talk about, various parts of the company, but it keeps leading to how you're showing up as a leader. How do you transfer that on to other individuals as they're scaling themselves within your company?
Wow. I at the risk of this sounding kind of bad, um, I talk about law firms like wolf packs, and I'll say the same about any professional services firm. Whether it's an accounting firm, an archaeology firm. I have a client that's an archaeology firm, which is really fun to work for, and I think you do it by example. And it's a function of being there, being present, being seen, being heard, talking about the important numbers and the important goals. Um, you know, here's a great, this is not so much about transferring it, but it is a function about the power of leadership. So we were struggling, and this is common with law firms, with discipline in production. So we're an hourly bill firm. And, these people, these attorneys, great, they'll wander off and have unproductive days. And we implemented a morning email that I send out every morning. And if I'm not here, Jamie will do it. And it's, just goal setting, leadership. This is what we need to do today. Come on, guys, man up. Let's get after it. That took our production up 20%, just like this.
Mm-hmm.
Just the power of being present, setting goals, setting standards, enforcing standards. You don't have to be an SOB about the standards. Sometimes you do. Sometimes if people just aren't performing, they got to go. I mean, I fired 3 attorneys a couple weeks ago, and every single one of them deserved it, and every single one of it had good warning that they were about to get it. I mean, I said, if you don't get your stuff in order, I'm going to be at your office on XYZ day, and you're leaving the firm. And hell, one of them was surprised I showed up. And I'm like, think I'm not good to my word?
Warning.
I've always been good to my word to you. I've done everything I've told you I was going to do, just because this is something you don't like. But, you know, if you can provide good leadership and good encouragement, couple those together, it makes a huge difference in your company. And I have friends that run law firms, and they hit a level of success, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take 6 months off and I'm going to go run my company from Barcelona. And I'm like, good luck with that, amigo. Good luck with that. And guess what? Next time we get together, they're like, yeah. And, I have friends. I have a great friend, really brilliant lawyer, very similar firm to ours, back east. And, he's got involved in another business venture that's very successful. And I'm really proud of him. Really good friend, very influential, smart guy. But his law firm's really struggling. And, he's got a new guy who's supposedly the managing partner who, is working from home. And, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you got to be there. You got to be present. And this is true for professional services firms, really. And but that's what I do. I mean, and I see that too in HVAC companies, in plumbing companies, in the trades. So when we're performing services, the leader has to have a presence, has to be heard, has to set goals, has to enforce standards. And, maybe this is something I learned in Boy Scouts, but there you go. So,
And I actually really like this too, because the leadership dynamic, sometimes there's a lot of, I don't know how to say it, like glitter almost thrown on being a leader. Like it's this fluffy dynamic where we're supportive and we're empowering and we're making everyone feel amazing. But I think what you're touching on, and I love it in the beginning, you said you're very blunt, is the reality of leadership is there's also a dynamic of being very blunt, of being very tough, of being sometimes confrontational, right? And so when you think about that, it's like, how does that show up with your even employees? Because it sounds like they're receiving it well. And how have you helped to create a culture where they can receive that?
well, we have learned over time, and again, recruiting has been the challenge, because lawyers are a very interesting group of people. There's a tendency towards the eccentric, and identifying the A players. And when you can identify the A players like this and hire them, boy, it makes it easy. And you're going to make a few mistakes, but you got to get rid of the B and C players really quickly. I made a couple mistakes hiring this year, and I got rid of them quick. And so leading A players is easy. You just go, okay, guys, this is what we need to do. And let's carry the message to Garcia. Do you make your people read message to Garcia?
No, I haven't. I actually haven't even heard of that one yet. So I will be adding it to my
What?
I know I've read so many books. You've said
No,
it.
it's
And I'm like,
it's
yeah.
it's a maybe 1,500 word essay,
Okay.
and it's about the idea is this guy wrote it to fill up some space in a newspaper, and he may have published 3 or 4, kind of as a serial in like 1898. Okay. And it was about President McKinley needed to get a message to a rebel general in Cuba in the Spanish-American War. And so the question is, this is kind of a difficult task, and it's not clear how it's going to get done. And so the question is, who do you give this job to? And the story says, give it to Rowan. He's going to get it done. Okay. And so, that's one of our just constant deals. And I send it out probably every other week to the whole team, in PDF. And I'm like, carry the message to Garcia. Be the person that takes the difficult tasks and figures out how to carry the message to General Garcia in Cuba. We don't want to hear a bunch of lame ass excuses of, oh, I was in Washington. Here's your metaphor. I'm in Washington and now I'm going to take the train to Richmond, but there's no trains to get to, Savannah or Charleston, so I can get on a boat. So I'm just going to sit in Richmond and drink whiskey, right? I'm going to be a lame ass. Okay, no. The person figures out, okay, I'm stuck in Richmond. Maybe I can get down to Norfolk. Maybe there's about, you got to be creative and figure stuff out, right? So when that becomes your firm mantra, when that becomes, how do you get stuff done? It's like, guys, carry the message to Garcia. I don't want to hear your lame ass excuses. Go get it done. Right? Okay.
All this, the pressure and the accountability is forcing them to use their brains, get creative, believe in themselves, get to the other side, create strategies. It's almost like you're forcing them to use their highest potential by saying, just get it done. I don't want to hear these.
And there's two more points in relation to this. The people that carry the message to Garcia in this world are always busy because people learn to count on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Here's the downside of this. I have 5 children. Imagine being one of my children.
I'm this way. I have a family, and I understand the frustration on the other side.
My kids come to me and they're like, Dad, where? And I'm like, carry the message to Garcia.
How old are your kids?
Well, they're 27 to 16 now. And, I'm not a SOB about how you deal with them, but you're like, learn to think for yourself. Learn to, our second core value is create solutions, because that's what people pay us to do, all the time. And as a law firm, that's what people really want for us. Most law firms, or a lot of law firms, want to sit here and tell you about how awesome they are and how they did this and how they did that. And this case that they just won. Nobody gives a crap, right? We pay our rent every day. And so people want us to create a solution. They don't want to hear about how awesome we are. And I make fun of my old partner because his law firm just added a new attorney to their letterhead, and he died in 1919. I'm like, oh, we're scared of you. Come on. So, okay, that's how you lead people. Message to Garcia stuff, hold them accountable, give them goals, and give them this is Daniel Pink from Drive. Give them find the A players, give them the autonomy to do the work, give them the support they need, but no more, and give them the freedom to master the craft. And the A players love it.
They do. Yeah. I know. I love that you're sharing this. And it's really beautiful. It's the individuals who really want to grow. They really want to develop themselves, which you're identifying is the A players. When you find those, they love this dynamic. So if you have a team of people who are resistant to you pushing, making them kind of find that solution, figure it out, they're probably not A players. And it's time to reevaluate your hiring process, reevaluate how you're actually managing them. Like maybe they're in the wrong seat. Check out a bunch of different details, because once you get them in the right place, they're amazing. People can do amazing things.
Yeah. And, if I find somebody that's not prospering and, I have phrases that I hear them say, oh, we're getting bad leads. I'm like, no, we're not getting bad leads. You're the problem. And I don't confront them. But, another great book about dealing with people is Henry Cloud's Necessary Endings. Are you familiar with Dr. Cloud?
Honestly, I've read so many books, and you're pulling out new books I haven't read. I feel like I just I'm gonna email you every now and then, and you might hear from me and be like, "Give me another book on this subject,"
Yeah.
because I read a lot, and I haven't heard that one either.
Well, Henry Cloud popularized the word boundaries. He owns that word, okay? And
Now I want to research him even more.
yeah, and that's his, but Necessary Indians. He talks about dealing with people, and about how to lead and how to correct. And with wise people, they will listen to you. They'll take course corrections.
Yeah.
And fools will argue with you. They'll try and make it your fault
Yeah.
and just bicker with you and tell you why it can't be done, why they can't carry the message to Garcia. And when I get that, I'm like, okay, I got you, and here's your options.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I did with those two of those lawyers. I said, okay, if you're so smart, we're going to try it your way, and here's your deadline. And if you don't have it in order by then, I'm not going to spend my time and energy trying to correct and teach you, because I'm not going to sit here and argue with you.
Mm-hmm.
And here's your deadline. And if, maybe you're going to figure it out. They rarely do. Maybe you're going to become the high performer that you're telling me you are. Sorry about that. But if not, then it's on you. And great chapter in there that really taught me how to deal with those difficult people who generally 99 times out of the 100 turn out to be the B or C or T players, T being the terrorists who are just going to terrorize your organization, right?
Good one. I haven't read the T yet. I like the
You
T
haven't?
edition.
Oh, it's
no,
great.
I love the T edition because I say
you got to look at it
my
like
nieces.
like a square, because your A players, high competency, high commitment, and high culture fit. But the T play, and B is going to be, maybe C will be not culture fit, will be low competency and low culture fit. Okay. B will be, sorry, I'm looking at this, but the T people will be high competency, but really bad culture fits.
Yeah, I haven't heard them referred to as terrorists yet. I like
Oh,
that,
they're
though.
terrorists in your organization.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really that's what we use our personality test. One of the aspects of it is to identify those people that are going to be terrorists.
I have a really good example of that, like
Yeah, tell me.
playing out in a company, which is amazing because I think people they discount because they get so starry-eyed with like their ability, their competency, right? And so this company that I'm talking about, there's an individual in an executive position, and definitely we can get starry-eyed about the competency, but the culture is such a bad fit that two people of that were very high importance to the company have quit as a result. And during the time frame they've been there, because of the actions that they've taken, they went from having a pretty interesting dominant market sort of ownership of their niche to this individual being the driver to creating two highly competitive companies against them. And they're still in the company. And I keep saying, as a friend of mine, I was like, you gotta fire them. Like, this person needs to be gone. But it's true. It's not just a D person. It's a T. It's a terrorist. This is a terrorist within the company. And no matter how competent they are, no matter how amazing, it's like because the culture is not a match, all these other things are going on in the background that is like incredibly challenging. Like incredibly. It's insane.
Yeah, you nailed it completely on the head. And that's, by the way, the T is not mine. I don't know where I learned that along the way, but it's real. But it's really, it's visceral, and it hits you because you're like, oh yeah, that's completely it. Because you get these people, when you get this wrong person, everybody, they're high competent at their job, or high competent, whatever. And so they can have some influence.
Yeah.
And they can have some respect, but they're really disruptive and, damaging. And so that's why we use that. And we're really assiduous about keeping those people out of our company. The last one we had was an attorney, and my COO, God rest his soul, really did love him. Last conversation we had before he died was, "You're firing that guy before the end of the year or I'm leaving."
Hmm.
Yeah. So really powerful stuff. So
Yeah.
two, sorry, this was fun. I get worked up. It's fun talking to you.
I know, I worked there too. This is awesome. Okay, we're coming to the end of our time, but I feel like we could really go on for a really long time. I really appreciate all this information that you shared. It's been highly valuable, and I have a feeling people are going to get some value out of it for sure. I'm really excited to read some of the extra books that I got some that said on as well. Let's share with the listeners where they can find you, where they can come seek you out, more about your book, where they can find that.
Yeah, books on Amazon. Law firm website is davisbusinesslaw.com. Got some great tools up in there in our resources or whatever tab that is. I forgot what it's called. Sorry, I've got a few things going on in my life. I've been all over the country lately. And there's some great downloadable PDFs that everybody can just grab, and a really good little checklist called the Strong Protected Businesses Checklist that maps out some best practices you ought to put in place for your company. And catch this, we did it based on the size of your company too. Because guess what? When you're a baby company, who cares about succession planning because you don't have anything to protect yet? Don't worry about that, as an example. So that's where we are. And I answer emails. I'm that nerd that has maybe 20 in my box on a bad day. M. Davis at Davis Business Law. Happy to reach out and help whoever I can.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely take up Matthew on the offers. So he's got a ton of stuff that you guys can take advantage of, and I'm sure it's going to help you with your business and also your personal development, especially that book, I'm sure, and lots to learn from him more and more. If this resonated with you, definitely pass it on, guys, to someone else who you think might benefit from this information. Give us a like, make sure to hit follow so you can stay connected to all the new episodes. And also, I know we talked a little bit about values determination from John G. Martini. So I actually have that on my website. So I'm one of his facilitators. You go to my resources tab, and that is free for you guys as well. And you can take John's values determination. It's one of my favorites. So go enjoy that too. All right. We look forward to connecting with you guys again. And thank you again, Matthew, for being here.
Thank you. That was fun.